The evening sky over Madrid glowed with muted shades of orange and purple, the city quieting as night fell. Cristiano Ronaldo had just left a small supermarket, a couple of shopping bags swinging in his hands. He walked through the nearly empty parking lot, enjoying the rare calm after a long day of training and interviews. Then something unusual caught his eye. In the far corner, an old, weathered car sat alone, its fogged windows partially obscuring a small figure inside. Ronaldo squinted through the glass. A woman hunched over in the driver's seat, a bundle in her arms that shifted slightly. A faint, distressed cry pierced the stillness. He froze. The sound tugged at something deep inside him. His instincts, honed through years on the field, told him this was more than just a quiet scene. It was a life in need. A mother and her child, struggling in the cold, vulnerable, and invisible to most of the world. Without thinking twice, Ronaldo took a slow, deliberate step toward the car. "Hi, are you okay? Can I help you?" His voice was calm, soothing, gentle yet carried a weight of concern that filled the empty parking lot. The woman froze mid-step, her eyes meeting his for the briefest instant before darting away. I'm fine," she muttered, her grip tight on the steering wheel. Ronaldo nodded, understanding the need for distance. "All right. If you need anything, I'll be around." She didn't respond. Her eyes shifted back to the baby, whispering to herself, as though speaking aloud could summon danger. Ronaldo walked back toward his car, but his mind refused to let go of the haunting image of the woman and her child. The baby, tiny and fragile, was wrapped in layers of mismatched blankets, each frayed at the edges, clearly chosen out of necessity rather than comfort. The mother, moving carefully, seemed to bend the world around her, shielding the child from the cold, from the harsh eyes of the world, from the indifference of strangers who might walk by without noticing their struggle. Ronaldo's heart tightened at the sight. He thought of his own childhood, the relentless pursuit of greatness, the countless sacrifices he and his family had endured. He remembered the mornings waking up before dawn to train, the injuries, the disappointments, and the moments of loneliness when no one could understand the pressure he bore. And yet, even with all the challenges he had faced, he recognized that nothing compared to the vulnerability of a mother trying to survive for her child. It was a stark reminder that not all battles were fought on the pitch. Some were fought quietly, in the shadows, without recognition or applause. The night had left him restless. He replayed the scene in his mind as he drove home, thinking about the small things that had made a difference in his own life, the encouragement of a coach, the kindness of strangers, the moments when someone had believed in him when he doubted himself. If these gestures, small as they seemed, could shift the trajectory of his life, perhaps they could make a difference for someone else too. The idea settled in him like a quiet determination, gentle but unwavering. The next morning, before the city fully awoke, Ronaldo returned to the same parking lot. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of freshly baked bread from nearby cafes. The car was still there, parked in the far corner, its windows fogged slightly from the cool morning air. A woman, carrying a small plastic bag, stepped out cautiously. Her movements were slow, deliberate, each step measured with care. She glanced around nervously, as if anticipating judgment or intrusion. Her eyes constantly flicked to the baby in her arms, adjusting his blankets, checking that he remained warm and safe. Each motion was precise, almost ritualistic, a careful choreography born of necessity that Ronaldo approached quietly, not wanting to startle her. He had brought a small bundle, a warm blanket, a bottle of water, and a few basic baby supplies. He placed them gently on the hood of the car, arranging them in plain sight, yet leaving enough distance that she could claim them without feeling exposed or indebted. Her eyes widened as she noticed the items. For a brief moment, hesitation clouded. Her expression fear, uncertainty, and disbelief warred in her gaze. She peeked around, scanning the lot as if to find the source of this unexpected kindness. Slowly, cautiously, she reached out and took the blanket and water, her fingers brushing against the items like they were fragile treasures. A soft, almost inaudible whisper escaped her lips. "Thank you." Ronaldo's lips curved into a gentle smile, though he said nothing, giving her the space to absorb the moment. He stepped back, letting her take the items, letting her maintain control over her dignity. And as he walked away toward his car, he felt a quiet hope stir inside him. Belief that even the smallest gesture could be the beginning of something much larger. The next day, Ronaldo returned to the parking lot, taking his time as he walked through the rows of cars. He didn't rush. He understood that trust, especially for someone like Sophia, couldn't be hurried. From a distance, he observed her movements. Noting the careful, measured way, she pushed a shopping cart toward her vehicle. Every step was deliberate, weighed down by exhaustion, as though each motion required a small reserve of energy she didn't have. Her face was pale, her eyes shadowed by sleepless nights, but there was a determination there, too, a fierce resolve to protect the small life she carried in her arms. Ronaldo waited until she was closer, giving her space to notice him on her. "Own. Hi," he said softly, keeping his tone warm and unobtrusive. "I'm the one who left the blanket and water yesterday. I hope it didn't make you uncomfortable." Sophia froze mid-step, her hands gripping the cart as if it were a lifeline. Her eyes flicked toward him, wide with a mixture of wariness and surprise. The suspicion in her gaze was unmistakable, an instinctual caution shaped by months of hardship. Yet beneath the caution, he could see the faintest spark of curiosity, a quiet flicker of hope. I saw it," she admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's all," Ronaldo said, stepping back slightly to maintain distance. "I just wanted to help. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to talk. Sometimes letting someone help isn't weakness. It's just a chance to breathe." A faint, almost imperceptible sigh escaped her lips. Her shoulders relaxed, just a fraction as she adjusted the blanket around Marco, her small son, pressing him closer to her chest. "Thank you," she murmured, clutching the supplies as if they were a lifeline, her fingers tracing the edges of the blanket with care. The next several days, Ronaldo continued these quiet gestures. Each morning, he would arrive at the parking lot with small items, a pack of diapers, baby formula, soft blankets, sometimes a few toys to brighten the child's world. He placed them thoughtfully near the car, always visible yet without drawing attention to himself. Each time, Sophia approached cautiously, hesitating, scanning the area to ensure no one else was watching. Slowly, she accepted what he left, her movements growing less tense, the flicker of suspicion gradually giving way to a glimmer of trust. Ronaldo observed her closely during these interactions, noting every detail. He saw the way she adjusted Marco in her arms, shifting him slightly to shield him from the breeze, murmuring softly to calm his occasional cries. He noticed the constant, careful way she checked her surroundings, how she scanned the lot before, settling the baby again. The exhaustion etched into her shoulders, and the weariness in her eyes were tempered by an unspoken dignity, a quiet pride in protecting her child despite the circumstances. With each brief encounter, Ronaldo felt the fragile bonds of trust growing. Sophia's defenses softened incrementally, like the slow melting of frost in morning sunlight. And for Ronaldo, these small moments became a testament to the quiet resilience of those who fight for others without asking for recognition, the silent heroes whose battles are invisible to most, yet no less profound. One quiet afternoon, as the warm hues of the sun dipped behind Madrid's rooftops, Casting long shadows across the streets, Ronaldo approached Sofia once more. The parking lot was nearly empty, the distant hum of traffic blending with the soft rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. He walked slowly, deliberately, careful not to startle her. "Do you want to talk?" he asked gently. "You don't have to share everything, but if you want someone to listen, I'm here." Sofia paused mid-step, her fingers tightening around the handle of her shopping cart. She glanced down at Marco, who rested quietly in his arms, his small body still bundled in the blanket Ronaldo had left days earlier. The weight of months of hardship pressed down on her like an invisible weight she carried alone, a burden she had borne in silence. Her chest rose and fell unevenly as she took a deep, shaky breath. Finally, the words emerged, hesitant, fragile, yet laden with raw emotion. "I lost everything. My husband. My home, my life fell apart." Her voice trembled, breaking in places she couldn't conceal, the edges frayed by exhaustion. She stared at the asphalt as if it might swallow her, her eyes flicking occasionally toward Ronaldo, as though seeking a fragment of understanding. She spoke slowly at first, each word carefully chosen. "It happened so fast. Liam, my husband, he died suddenly. A car accident. He was coming home from work, and..." She trailed off, swallowing hard, the memory twisting her stomach with pain. It wasn't supposed to happen. It should have been just another night. And suddenly, he was gone. Ronaldo remained silent, kneeling slightly in his stance to lower himself to her level without invading her space. He nodded gently, his eyes encouraging her to continue. She took another trembling breath, gripping Marco closer, as though the small boy's warmth could anchor her in the present. The bills, they started piling up almost immediately. Insurance didn't cover enough. And then my in-laws. They tried to take Marco from me. They said I wasn't capable, that I was unstable. She paused, biting her lip, tears threatening to spill. Maybe they were right. I was a mess. But everything I did, it was for Marco. I had to protect him. The story spilled out slowly after that. The eviction notices, the nights spent in her car, the constant anxiety of finding work while caring for a small child, the exhaustion that left her body aching and her mind frayed. Each detail was a thread of her life unraveling, a tapestry of hardship woven with loss, fear, and the desperate determination to survive. Through it all, Ronaldo listened without interruption. He didn't offer solutions or try to rush her pain away. He understood that this moment wasn't about fixing anything. It was about witnessing, acknowledging, and validating a story that had been lived mostly in silence. Each sigh, each faltering word, each glance at Marco carried weight, and Ronaldo absorbed it quietly, letting the gravity of her experience settle between them. By the time Sofia fell silent, exhausted from the torrent of memories and emotion, Ronaldo remained calm, his presence steady and reassuring. He didn't need her gratitude or acknowledgement. He simply offered the gift of being there, of bearing witness, and of letting her know that, finally, someone saw the struggle she had carried alone for far too long. After listening to Sofia's story, Ronaldo felt a surge of urgency. Words alone weren't enough to ease the weight she had carried for months. He could see the exhaustion etched into every line of her face, the subtle tremble in her hands as she held Marco close, the way she had been carrying the weight of the world alone. He knew he couldn't simply walk away. "Sofia," he said, his voice calm but firm, carrying the conviction of someone who had made up his mind. "We're going to get you and Marco somewhere safe tonight." The intensity in his gaze left no room for doubt. Sofia's lips parted slightly, her eyes widening, caught between disbelief and hope. She had grown accustomed to being ignored, to being passed by, to receiving judgment instead of help. And yet, Here was someone who wasn't asking for anything in return, someone who simply wanted to ensure their safety. Within minutes, Ronaldo returned. In his hand was a small, unassuming envelope. He handed it to her with care. "Here," he said softly. "This is for you and Marco." Sophia hesitated before taking it. Slowly, she opened the envelope. Inside were the keys to a modest motel room, enough cash to cover a meal or two, and a neatly folded note. Its message simple yet profound. "You and Marco deserve a safe place tonight. No strings, just care." Her fingers trembled as she read. The words, each one sinking into her heart. Tears welled in her eyes, spilling over despite her attempts to hold them back. I don't want charity," she whispered, her voice quivering. Ronaldo knelt slightly to meet her gaze, letting his presence convey respect and understanding. "This isn't charity," he replied gently. "It's just helping you take the first step to breathe again. That's all. No judgment, no strings attached. Just a safe place for tonight so you and Marco can rest." Sophia looked down at her son, then back at Ronaldo. She could feel the sincerity in his words, the absence of expectation. Her body, tense from months of stress and sleepless nights, relaxed ever so slightly. With a tentative nod, she accepted the envelope, gripping it close to her chest as though it were a lifeline. They walked together to the motel, Ronaldo matching her pace, allowing her to lead with Marco safely in her arms. The evening air was cool, but for the first time in months, Sophia didn't feel the cold creeping through her clothes. She felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time, a sense of being seen, being cared for, being supported without judgment. Upon arriving, Ronaldo helped her carry a few small items inside, but he stayed mindful of her need for independence. He made sure the room was ready, the bed neatly made, a small crib set up for Marco, and the essentials organized so she could settle in without worry. Once she was inside and Marco safely tucked, Ronaldo offered her a reassuring smile. "I'll leave you to get comfortable," he said quietly. "But know this, you're safe now. Tonight, that's enough." As he stepped back into the evening air, he felt a profound mix of relief and quiet resolve. For the first time, Sophia and Marco could rest without fear, and Ronaldo knew this. Small act of empathy could be the first step toward rebuilding their lives, a step he was determined to support, however he could. Over the following weeks, Ronaldo stayed quietly present in Sophia's life, understanding that rebuilding trust and stability couldn't be rushed. Each morning, he would check in from a distance, ensuring that Sophia and Marco were safe, while giving her the space to make her own decisions. He introduced her to a local community center, a warm and welcoming place where families in need could find support without judgment. There, social workers guided Sophia through applications for temporary assistance, childcare, and housing, helping her navigate a world that had often felt unyielding and indifferent. Ronaldo also leveraged his own network discreetly, connecting Sophia with opportunities she would never have imagined possible. He helped her apply for a small part-time job at a nearby office, a position that offered stability and a sense of purpose. The first day she arrived, nervous and unsure, Ronaldo walked her to the door and gave her a quiet nod of encouragement. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. "You're going to do great." Meanwhile, he continued to leave thoughtful gestures of support. Groceries, baby items, diapers, formula, and small toys appeared outside the motel room or at the community center, always placed carefully so that Sophia could accept them without embarrassment or feeling indebted. Each gift was simple, practical, and heartfelt, but more importantly, they reminded her she wasn't alone, that someone believed in her resilience. Day by day, progress became tangible. Sophia's steps grew surer, her posture straighter, the tension around her eyes easing as she gained confidence in her ability to provide for Marco, the baby, once restless and wary, began to thrive. His laughter echoed through the small motel room, a sound that had been absent for too long, lifting Sophia's spirits with each joyful note. Small victories built momentum, each one a reminder that life could be steadied again, that hope was not just a distant dream. The first paycheck from her new job arrived, folded neatly into an envelope. Sophia held it tightly, feeling a surge of pride and relief, proof that she could support herself and her child. Marco experienced his first uninterrupted night in a proper crib, the soft mattress and quiet space allowing him to sleep deeply, restoring energy that had been scarce in their months of hardship. Warm meals replaced cold, hurried snacks. Clean clothes replaced the frayed layers they had worn in the car. And while the motel was temporary, it became a sanctuary, a place where Sophia could reclaim a sense of normalcy and dignity. Through it all, Ronaldo remained a steady, quiet presence. He didn't intrude or demand gratitude. He simply offered guidance, resources, and reassurance when needed. His support created a delicate balance, help that empowered rather than overshadowed, giving Sophia the confidence to take the reins of her life. By the end of those weeks, Sophia wasn't just surviving, she was beginning to live again. Every step she took toward stability, every smile she shared with Marco, every small accomplishment felt like a victory, not just for her, but for the silent, compassionate support that had helped her find her footing again. Ronaldo watched from afar, quietly proud, knowing that the foundation had been laid for a life rebuilt, stronger, safer, and filled with hope. Months later, the transformation was remarkable. The once exhausted mother moved through her days with a renewed sense of purpose. Her shoulders no longer weighed down by constant worry, her eyes no longer shadowed with sleepless nights. Sophia's smile returned, tentative at first, fragile like the first buds of spring, but growing stronger with every passing day. Marco, once restless and wary, laughed freely now, his small hands reaching out for toys, his voice filling the room with the pure, uncomplicated joy that only a child can bring. Ronaldo often watched from a quiet distance, content to see the progress unfold. What had begun as a single act, simply noticing someone in need, had grown into something far more profound. He thought about the small gestures he had made, the blankets, the baby formula, the discreet guidance, and realized that while he had offered help, it was Sophia's courage and determination that had truly driven the change. Each step she had taken to rebuild her life had been hers, not his. One afternoon, as the sun spilled warm golden light across the community center courtyard, Ronaldo approached Sophia with another small bag of essentials, groceries, a few items of clothing, and a handwritten note of encouragement. Sophia, holding Marco carefully in her arms, looked up at him, her eyes bright with gratitude and pride. "You've done so much for us," she said softly, her voice carrying both warmth and wonder. Ronaldo shook his head gently, crouching slightly to meet her gaze. "You're doing it yourself," he replied, his tone calm, reassuring, but firm in its honesty. "Every step you take to rebuild your life, that's the real work. I just helped you find the path. You walked it yourself." Sophia smiled, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief, pride, and hope. She glanced down at Marco, who had grown stronger, more confident, a child finally thriving in a world that had once been cold and uncertain. She realized that the foundation of stability, safety, and love she had fought so hard to reclaim was no longer a distant dream. It was real, tangible, and within reach. The story of their journey wasn't marked by fanfare or public recognition. There were no headlines, no applause, no grand celebrations. Instead, it was written in quiet triumphs. A mother sleeping peacefully beside her child, a child laughing without fear, the gentle confidence that comes from knowing you are safe and capable of moving forward. For Ronaldo, the lesson was simple, yet profound. Even a superstar, surrounded by fame, fortune, and adoration, could find meaning in noticing someone overlooked, in offering empathy and practical help without expectation. The impact wasn't measured in publicity. It was measured in the life that had been steadied, the hope restored, and the dignity preserved. As Sofia and Marco walked toward the park later that afternoon, hand in hand, their steps lighter, there, smiles brighter, Ronaldo watched from a distance, a quiet satisfaction in his heart. The world often celebrated extraordinary feats, but sometimes the simplest acts of kindness offered quietly, thoughtfully, and with genuine care had the power to change lives forever. In that moment, the story ended not with a spectacle, but with enduring inspiration. A mother and child safe, empowered and hopeful, and a superstar who reminded the world that humanity, compassion, and empathy could ripple outward in ways no one could predict, but that could be felt forever.